I want to welcome you all to today's Lunch and Learn. My name is Cece Ziegler, and our topic is the latte factor. How many of you cannot do without your morning cup of coffee? Raise the hands. Ah, some caffeine addicts. How many of you find it hard to pass up the shoe sales, maybe a DSW or Macy's? That's my weakness. Well, you can see up here we've got a full slide of different types of weaknesses. It might be fast food. Perhaps you don't like to cook, so you eat out a lot. Chris is nodding his head. Maybe it's cigarettes. It could be going to the movies all the time. It could be gambling. Shoes is mine. All sorts of things, games, whatever it is. But we all have those weaknesses. So for you coffee lovers, think back to this past week. How many of you stopped at a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts? Okay, we got 1, 2, all right. Whether it's coffee, shoes, games, whatever it is, we've got to take inventory on a daily basis of where our money's going. And the reason I decided to pick this topic is because with the recession, I've seen my nest egg dwindle quite a bit. I also know I have a weakness for shoes. So I'm trying my hardest and eating out. So both of those, I'm trying to cut down on both of those weaknesses. If I were to tell you that you could take the money it costs to buy coffee and put that into the company 401k with their match, that by the time you're 65, and I know that for most of you all that seems like a long ways off, but trust me, it comes faster than you ever expect, that money could end up being worth $1 million. This is based on you saving $5 a day, okay, and putting it into a fund or whatever that yields about 10%. Right now I think we see about an 8% yield in this particular economy. So before we're all going to become millionaires, we've got to understand, one, where our money is going, and two, how to manage the finances. So first we're going to identify areas of frivolous spending through implementation of a program called the Latte Factor. Secondly, we're going to learn how to save and invest that money. And then finally, we're going to learn from the experts or the millionaires themselves and how they were successful in saving. How many of you are familiar with the Latte Factor? Have you ever heard of it? No. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. This past year, there was over 200,000 hits, Google hits, on the Latte Factor. The Latte Factor is a concept that was created by David Bach, and he wrote this book. He's actually written many books on finances, but this is his most recent one. He's a New York Times bestseller. And I'm going to quote him because he really says it best. He says, "The Latte Factor is the ultimate metaphor for how we spend money. It shows us the small amounts we spend daily on little things like fancy coffees and bottled water, how they can literally add up to a fortune." So let's get started. You're going to weigh the odds here. You know, what's important to you in your life. First, I want you to not do a thing. I don't want you to change your habits when you leave here. Not yet. What I want you to do is I want you to write down every single penny you spend daily for a week. And that's going to be a challenge. Every single penny you spend. Then I want you to look for trends. Identify those pointless spending trends that you have. Add up those dollars and see what your potential savings could possibly be. And then lastly, be realistic. Maybe just find one of those trends that you're willing to give up and take the money and invest. So let's look at what we need to do with that money. There are many ways to invest your money. However, probably the most important for us is to invest your money in the company 401k. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, think about it. The company is giving you free money. Studies show that you should probably put about 10 to 15% of your annual income in there. You can also include the company match with that. Let's talk about how our particular company is structured when it comes to the 401k. Your first 3% that you invest in the 401k, the company is going to match it at 100%. That is phenomenal. Then the next 2%, if you elect to do that amount, they'll match it at 50%. So the average yield is about 4%. This is something that should be a no-brainer for everybody in this room. We're very fortunate to have that strong of a company match. The next point I want to bring up is an emergency fund. You've always heard, you know, save for a rainy day. You don't know when that rainy day is going to hit in your lifetime. So they recommend, they being the experts, recommend that you put away 6 months worth of your income into a savings account. What I recommend you do is have a direct deposit to the savings account. For me, out of sight, out of mind, I don't even see it, it's gone. And you know, you can start out by doing it just a little bit at a time so it's not so overwhelming, you know, and build up and have more deducted as you feel more comfortable with it. But that is something you really need to consider doing. And another option I want to encourage you to look into is to invest in an IRA, perhaps something like a Roth IRA. These offer additional tax benefits on top of your retirement savings. I'm going to encourage you to speak to a financial advisor. I'm not a professional in this area at all. In fact, that's why I'm looking into it and reading books, is to know what to do with my money during this economic time. But you can invest up to $5,000 of your annual income if you're under 50. If you're over 50, you get $6,000 because it's called a catch-up. I guess as we're getting closer to retiring, we're going to give you a little bit more time. So. Next thing I want to do is take a look at how millionaires live. So how do we identify a millionaire? Can you spot the millionaire? If you were to walk past Bill Gates, would you know? Let's see if you can pick out the millionaires in this group. Anybody want to give it a stab? See somebody that looks familiar to you?
Bill Gates right there.
Okay, Bill Gates is right here. That is him younger.
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett up here. Two of the wealthiest men in the world are actually billionaires, but they have to be millionaires first. So, anybody else? No. Let me point out some of them. I don't have all their names, but I'll point out what business they started. All of them are millionaires. In fact, most of them are multi-millionaires. This young guy, Facebook. I believe she is a consultant. And she's also a consultant. Tells you what you can do in the consulting industry. This lady sold insurance to trucking companies. AOL. She was the one that made Airborne, you know, the medication you take when you're flying. These two guys are on YouTube. He is I think he's a consultant and she's internet marketing. So, all sorts of backgrounds, huh? Yes. But all millionaires, you wouldn't know by looking at their picture. In the book, The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley, it provides 7 factors that were common amongst all millionaires. And we're going to talk about 3 of those today. We've got tip 1. This is my grandfather. My grandfather was a millionaire. He made his money in the oil industry. He owned oil refineries in Texas, and then when he retired, the government asked if he would be a consultant on the Alaskan pipeline. There's a picture of my grandfather in his suit here that you would never ever see him in. This was when he was the chairman of a board of a bank in Texas. It's the only time he knows how old it is because he's holding a cigar, which would be taboo these days. But this was his picture, you know, that they took. Otherwise, you'd never see him in a suit. I never saw him in a suit.